Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Sid's Reviews. My name is Dale and today is a really special day. I'm really excited for this review. These behind me, these are very special speakers and I'm going to tell you all about them and what I think of them. These are the Swan D200 power speakers. Let's get into it. Okay, so these are the Swan D200 speakers, and you go on their website and check it out, which I'll do a link here in the above. As you can see, they have a wide range of speakers from like monitors to home theater speakers, bookshelf speakers. They have tower speakers. They have some subwoofers as well, and they've been making speakers for quite a while, and there's been a lot of good reviews on them. Now, these behind me are the Swan. It's I think one of their latest line of speakers is the D line. So they have the D100 speakers, which are small bookshelf speakers, primarily I think made for the desktop. Then there's a D200, which is these ones, and then the D300s, which are a little bit bigger bookshelf speakers, which Z Reviews already did a review on them, and he had a really favorable opinion on them. So I decided to try out the D200s because it's kind of in the middle of that range, I think. So it's not exactly a super small speaker for the desktop, and it's not exactly a bigger one, I guess, for a living room. These kind of fit in the middle, and they could fit and do both actually really well, which I'll explain later. So these are available on Amazon right now, Amazon.com, for $399 US. They don't have them on the Canadian or UK Amazon website. However, I did get them on Amazon.com, and it did ship to Canada. So that's why I wanted to get these up here to try it out. These speakers here have a 5-inch woofer on them. The ribbon tweeter, as you can see, is a very nice ISO dynamic ribbon tweeter with a copper foil. This thing features Bluetooth 5.0 in APTX HD. It also has connections on the back for optical, coaxial, and also balanced inputs as well, which is really interesting, and a RCA line input. The frequency range on these speakers, it goes down to 48 hertz, and it goes up to 20,000 kilohertz. In the back also has a switch on the back for a desk or a stand mount option, and I'll tell you about the differences in those when I get to it. On the side of the main speaker here, it has the 3 knobs on it. So you push for power and volume, and also it has a treble and a bass, and these speakers are DSP controlled, which I'll talk more about later in the review. It has a very nice remote that comes with it, which I'll go into a little bit more detail here coming up. Okay, just very quickly, here's the front of these speakers. As you can see, there's a very nice sound waveguide built into these speakers. These are the ribbon tweeters that are built in, and below here is the 5 1/4 inch, I believe, mid-range woofer. And in the front there, the active speaker here, you can see the Swan logo. And when you switch inputs, so you go to auxiliary, is green, balanced is yellow, optical white, Bluetooth is blue, coax is looks purple, and then there's a mute function here, and it flashes too when it goes up and down, so you know that the volume's being changed. Also, I'll show you the side of the speaker here. So as you can see, there's a master power switch on and off, and then volume, and then bass and treble on there. So it's very well built, and that's great too that it's on the side. So if you have it set up on the desktop, obviously it's, you know, it's within hand range, so you can control the volume and stuff like that. On the D300, the one that Z Reviews reviewed, if you notice, that one's on the back, so it's that'd be a lot harder to put on a desk and change the volume of it. Now I'm going to show you the back here, the powered speaker. Okay, so here's the back here of the powered speakers. So as you can see, there's a vent here, and there's the one here on the back of that speaker too. Optical input, coaxial input, RCA input, balanced inputs, which I didn't try because I don't have any other components with balanced. That's the speaker output, so this goes out into the other speaker. It comes with the cord. The cord is about I'd say about 10 feet long, so it's adequate, but I wish it was a little bit longer. And then there's the power outlet, so that's about it. Oh, here's the remote, which I always show you guys. So this is the remote. Power has all the inputs on here, mute button, and then volume up and down. And that's about it. So now let's get on with the review. Okay, so now let's talk about probably obviously the most important aspect of these speakers, and that is the sound. Now when I first hooked up these speakers, I put them on my stands here next to my stereo 2-channel setup. So I just had them set up. I just ran the optical from my CD player directly into here. And then I also hooked it up through a DAC as well, through that, and then RCAs into there as well. The only thing I didn't try on here was the line outputs, because I don't have any other component with balanced outputs or inputs to it, so I couldn't use the balanced input into it. But anyway, the sound I would say overall is just wonderful. It's just absolutely exciting. I was actually floored by the sound of these speakers on 2-channel stand mounts. So let's start off with the bass. I think the bass is very exciting. It's probably I'd say almost the highlight of these speakers, just because their sides, you don't think that it would have that much punch or to get that much low end to it. But to me, a lot of times when a speaker sounds just right is when it has a good amount of bass to it. So the bass, like I said, it hits very low, it hits hard. I wouldn't say it's overly detailed or quick, but it's certainly very satisfying. There's absolutely no reason to hook up a subwoofer whatsoever to these speakers. It doesn't have a sub output out the back. There it does have RCA, so you can hook up a subwoofer if you do need it, but absolutely I never felt a need to hook up a subwoofer to these things really punch low. So that was really satisfying, and probably one of the better aspects of these speakers for sure. Mids, again, the mid-range is very good. Voices come through very clear and articulate. I wouldn't say the mids are forward. I'd say they're probably just right, not recessed, not forward, just right in there. Whether it's female voices or male voices, everything sounds very clear and articulate. There was no problem here with the mid-range. Even when I hooked it up to 2-channel for my home theater for upstairs, in between my TVs, all the dialogue came through really clear, very crisp. It was just perfect. The treble on here is very interesting. So with these ribbon tweeters here, the treble comes out very crisp and clear, detailed. Was anything a little bit too bright? I don't think so. There was maybe some when I had it really loud on some music, maybe on some older sounding tracks where it's just ever so slightly sharp, never fatiguing, but just very, very slightly. And you can mitigate this obviously just by turning the treble down a little bit, but at no point was it ever sharp or anything. In fact, it's not really even worth mentioning, really. The treble is very good, crisp and clear on it. So those are kind of the overall sound signature. I think it's a little bit maybe of a V curve, so the upper end is, obviously, like I said, is very up and detailed, and then the treble is very crisp, but I wouldn't say it's like a U shape. I'd say, because the mids are so good too, it's pretty well balanced. I would say the overall thing, it's kind of like a bit of a klipsch, but with more detail and refinement to it. It's just very punchy, live. I love the sound of these speakers. I think they're absolutely fantastic, and it was good no matter where I put them. So upstairs next to my TVs, listening to movies and music, it was great. 2-channel listening, these things were absolutely phenomenal for that as well. And also near field, hooked up just on this with using a computer in the back. So if you have a computer set up, and all you do is you switch it from stand to desk, and the DSP just changes it into there. You could be right up to these things, and you can hear all kinds of details. It's almost like listening to really good headphones. The sound is just kind of all-encompassing and just soundstage, and you could hear the different instruments and everything. You can't say enough about the sound. It's just unbelievable. Also, what I wanted to touch on with these speakers is the tone controls on them, so the bass and treble controls. So as you know, with most speakers, you turn up the treble or the bass a little bit, and it makes a little bit of difference. And if it's like a 10-step type of gain control on either one, after about 2 or 3, it just, you don't want to go any further on. So with treble, it gets too high, too tingy, everything sounds unnatural. Same with bass, gets too bloated and stuff. These don't do that. It must be because of the DSP correction in these speakers, but try it out if you buy these speakers. Just turn it up all the way, the bass and the treble, and the sound changes, the DSP, but it corrects it. It doesn't make it bad or anything. It just makes it more, depending what you do. So it's just more exciting, more, I could turn these things up or down and it doesn't make it sound worse. It just kind of changes the sound. So tinker with it, if you will. It's a really cool thing, and I've never had that happen before with toe controls. I think Z Reviews did speak about it when he was doing his review there of the M300 Mark II, where he said he turned it up and it didn't ruin the sound of it, it just changed the sound. These do the exact same thing, so just another thing to look at. Okay, quickly I'll just go over a couple of comparisons because I've only reviewed a couple of other powered monitor speakers. So first, the Klipsch R-15 PM that I reviewed, that I still own upstairs. Again, the size of them, they're about the same as these speakers, so the same type of woofer, and the size will be about the same. The Klipsch, like I said, is very clear, dynamic, it goes loud, but at the very low end though, you'd probably need a subwoofer to hook up with that. In fact, you do need a subwoofer to hook up with the Klipsch's, not these. You do not need a subwoofer with it. This has all the bass you want and more, for sure. These are fantastic speakers in that aspect. Now, don't forget, these are $399 US, and now I think those Klipsch's you could probably get them for $250 or $300 US, so there is, $150 US price difference in there. But for the price, I think I take these because the sound is just so much better on it. It's better in every single way, I think. The remote on them are very comparable. There is more inputs though on that Klipsch, so it does have a USB input on it, and this one doesn't have a USB input. So if you want to hook it up directly up to a computer, you do need a DAC to hook it up to that. So connectivity issue, the Klipsch wins on that. Sound and finish though, these things pretty much floored, so there's not really any comparison there. The other comparison has to do with the edifiers that I reviewed, the 1700 BTS ones, which I'll do a link in the description there. Those, of course, those were only $180 US. This is $399. There's really no comparison. Those ones are kind of entry-level powered speakers. They're very good at what they do. The sound is satisfying with those, but as far as clarity, detail, low end, refinement, finish, these things are way better. It hands down the better speaker, but $400 compared to $180, you're paying over twice as much. So you can't, it's hard to compare it like that. Okay, so obviously you can see this is a really glowing review, all the pros with the speaker. Like I said, the sound quality is just excellent on these. Everything that I listened to, it came out just dynamite. The bass is just stunning. There's it's good for all kinds of music. I listen to classical, to hip hop, to hard rock, to everything that I have in my arsenal. I threw at these. Everything sounded just excellent on these. These things are really good. Another pro on it is because it's in the middle of the lineup of the Swan D line. The D100s are probably a little bit small, made for a desktop setup. The D300s probably more tailored to a stand mount setup. These you could do both. So if you're not quite sure if you're going to maybe move around the speakers a little bit, sometimes they'll be on a desktop, sometimes you want it as to rock out on 2 channels. these things are perfect for that. So it's kind of a jack of all trades type speaker. So I really like that. Like I said, it's versatile. It's great for music and movies. Dialogue sounds just excellent with these. And then when there's like those big boom moments in the movies, these things just absolutely explode. You almost think that there's already a subwoofer hooked up, and then you look at, you're just wondering in amazement how these things do that. So it's just awesome for that. Okay, let me quickly go over a couple of the cons that I find with these speakers, or caveats, I guess. The first thing is the remote control. Even though I think it's a pretty good job that they did on this, it does lack a little bit of functionality within the Bluetooth option. So unlike the Klipsch speakers that I reviewed before, where it had play, pause, previous track, next track on the Bluetooth, this one does not. So you have to use your phone to control the Bluetooth music. Not a major one, but still would have been nice for them to include that. Next, the inputs on that. So even though it has most of the inputs, it does not have a USB input. So to connect it directly from USB out of your computer to there, you need to go through a external DAC first. Again, not a deal breaker, but it would have been nice to include that, another option that the Klipsch speakers do have on there. And the other thing that I wanted to mention on these speakers that I think is a bit of a con is the Swan website. I believe, even though what they do have on there is very nice and informative, it is kind of a mess. If you notice, most of the speakers on there, they never say they're in stock. Most of them aren't in stock. They don't even mention on the Swan speaker website the D200s or the D100s. They only mention the D300s, which is really odd. I mean, why wouldn't they put that speaker on there? The only reason why I found out about it is when I went on Amazon.com. They listed the D200, the D100. No mention of that on the website at all. So Swan, if you're listening, and I know you're probably not, you guys need to definitely step it up with the website on there. It needs to be much more intuitive, up to date, and what's going on with your guys' availability. I mean, if you can't buy it through your website directly, only available on Amazon, just say so. I mean, this crazy out of stock thing is just ridiculous all the time. Anyway, that's another need to improvement. But that's it for the cons. Otherwise, I mean, the final conclusions, let's just get right into it. As far as this Swan D200 speakers go, this is an absolute bang for the buck option. I mean, these speakers are just great. I love the way they sound. Anything that you put into it, whether you're listening to R&B or hip hop or rock and roll, classic rock, classical music, I listen to that too as well. Anything that I put these on just sounded absolutely great. I was pinpointing things that I never heard before in the music, because the tweeter is like nice and detailed but never bright or fatiguing. Bass is so punchy. It's just such an engaging listen with these speakers. I mean, it's just incredible. I love the sound of these speakers. They're great anywhere you place them too. I mean, on the desktop right here, 2-channel stereo, it's great. Upstairs in my living room, instead of a soundbar, just put these things right to the side and optical out to these speakers. You're good to go. It's a fantastic option. Like I said, they're so versatile. They sound so good. For $399 US, it is absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth it. It's just one of those things that, one of these speakers that, I've never reviewed these speakers before on Swan. I listened just to reviews that Z Review did with all the other speakers, and you know what? The hype is spot on for these. These speakers definitely punch above their weight, and it's highly recommended. I can't recommend it enough. In fact, when you have an experience when you're listening to speakers and all you want to do is like, oh, what does that song sound like on these? What does that sound like on this one? What's that going to sound on it? You just keep rolling through your music library, songs that you've heard hundreds of times before, and they come out of here, you're just like, wow, really? Like, really? It's like, it's crazy. Like the spaciousness, the center imaging. Anyway, everything that is hyped about these speakers is absolutely true. These are great buys, highly recommended, and can't recommend them enough. Anyway, that's it for this review. I know it's a glowing review of these speakers, but they are that good. Links to purchase on Amazon.com are below if you want to support the channel a little bit. Also, leave any comments or questions that you have about these speakers that maybe I didn't answer in these videos. Leave them below, and I'll certainly get back to you. And that's it. So, and next until next time, another review's coming up. Keep on listening.